This is Football Night in America, served by Applebee's.
Time for our Week 8 recap. Maria Taylor alongside Mike Florio, Devin, McCourty, Jason Garrett here with you. And we want to start with the battle in the Meadowlands because as Bob Wischusen and the Jets play-by-play said it, he's not really sure how they walked away with the win, but it most certainly happened. And it was an interesting game, Jason, because half of it we were like, where's the offense? Is it going to start anytime soon? And somehow they walked away with the victory.
Maria, interesting is an interesting word.
Yeah.
I've never seen a game like this. You know, in a typical game, you might get 9, 10 possessions. Each team got 17 possessions. The Giants threw for negative yards. Thank God for Saquon Barkley. He was the only thing they had. But it went back and forth. It was an ugly day on both sides. I think the Jets are a better team right now than the Giants. The Giants hung in there for a while. Ultimately, the Jets made the plays at the end of the game. Was pleased with Zach Wilson. At crunch time, he did some great things for the Jets to give him a chance.
Yeah, I mean, we were in the screening room talking about, how many third downs haven't both teams got? Are we 0-16?
0 for 18 at half.
It was ridiculous, but I think you said it, Jason. I think the Jets found a way to win at the end of the game. Zach Wilson stepping up. But I think for the Giants, yes, you might have been a little overmatched in this game, especially once Tyrod Taylor goes out. But DeVito's your backup quarterback. Let's have some kind of plan moving forward, not just turn around and hand the ball off to Saquon Barkley and hope and pray we get a win. I thought they could have had a little bit more creativity or trusted DeVito a little bit more to try to go win that game. And, I mean, still, Gano makes the kick. You do win the game, but a tough break for the Giants.
And Zach Wilson told me after the game that the offense just wasn't good enough, and it clearly was awful for both teams, but you had to forget about it. You had to have a very short memory, and that's what he had. And they just kept pushing, and they just kept pushing. Gano misses the field goal. They should have never gotten the ball back. The Jets get it back with 24 seconds, make a couple of plays, get a couple of breaks. Somehow they get lined up, spike the ball with 1 second left on the clock, go to overtime, and then win it in overtime. I mean, it doesn't matter. It still counts as a win at the end of the day. It's 3 straight for the Jets. And every one of these is just building momentum toward the potential return of the guy who was out there today. Dropping back, moving around on that foot, less than 6 weeks removed from tearing his Achilles tendon. He's coming back at some point. He won't say when, but he's coming back at some point.
I mean, that was probably the most impressive thing we saw in the whole game was Aaron Rodgers in pregame. I mean,
walking around throwing. Yeah. He might be all right soon. I keep saying the Jets are trying to become America's team, but let's talk about the original America's team. Dak, the Cowboys, their 11th straight home win. It happened against the Rams, but what you enjoyed was the passing game and them looking for opportunities and taking their shots downfield.
They are so good at home. They're so fast on defense. They're opportunistic in the kicking game. But what jumped out at me was they were aggressive vertically in their passing game, really for the first time all year. Dak has completed a high percent of his passes. They've moved the ball a lot, but they've had trouble in the red zone. Today was a different mentality. They were attacking vertically. You saw it on the first drive. They throw the seam pass to Ferguson for the touchdown. The best offenses make first down on first down, and the best offenses score from out. So you saw this. It was a conscious effort by the Cowboys. When they got into that fringe area, 35-yard line, they were trying to throw the ball to the end zone. They did it 11 times. He threw 4 touchdowns on those plays. So I thought it was a good breakthrough for their offense and for their team today.
Yeah, and how about the defense? They stepped up in a big way. Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, they were really non-factors all game. Bland, another interception for a touchdown. I think when this defense sees the offense throwing the ball down the field, scoring touchdowns, they get energized. They were all over Matt Stafford today, had no time to throw the ball. But when you can play like that defensively and continue to get the ball back to your offense in scoring position, good field position throughout the game, you're going to win, and you're going to win the way they won today, won big, and really dominate the game for all 4 quarters.
And that's a formula we see the Cowboys duplicate because you get up a couple of scores, the offense starts throwing it more, the defense gets more aggressive. And to your point, you said in the week preceding the 49ers-Cowboys game, the fact that that was on grass at Levi's Stadium was a disadvantage for the Cowboys. And now the way Dallas is playing and the way the 49ers are playing, boy, the Cowboys could put themselves in a position where if they could catch the Eagles, people got to come there for the postseason, and that's a huge advantage for the Cowboys if it happens.
Okay, well, you bring up the Eagles, so let's go there next. Usually when they play the Washington Commanders, we see the Commanders, I say they turn into world beaters a little bit. Remember earlier this season, that game went into overtime, and it was just a little bit tighter maybe than you would want, but A.J. Brown, unguardable, another 125-yard-plus game, 6 straight. He's just making history. But what impressed you most about the Eagles walking away with this one?
I think the Eagles' ability to win no matter what the circumstances. I think everybody else watching the Eagles play, they're diehard fans, the experts. Everybody has an opinion. This team should be running the ball. This team should be doing this. Jalen Hurts should be doing that. They don't care about any of that. They say we have a game plan. We're going to go into the game, and we're going to figure out a way to win the game. Today we were sitting there in the screen and we're like, they should be running the ball more. Then you look up, Jalen Hurts finishes with 300 and something yards passing and 4 touchdowns. Why are we getting angry at that? They went out there and won the game. I think the hard thing is you continue to have to win this way. You're going to have to make sure you make the clutch plays, the 2-minute situations, the big third down, the big red area plays. You got to make those plays every week when the game's close. But I think they have that confidence to say, we believe we're the better team and we will make those plays.
Yeah, no doubt. Really good teams play the game they want to play. They create an environment like the 49ers early on in the year. They play to their defense, they run the ball, they protect their quarterback. That's what really good teams. The great teams, whatever the game is, they figure out how to do it. And that's what Philly's doing right now. Last week ran it more. This week they're throwing it more. The one concern that I have about Philly is their defense last year was so dominant. And they're giving up yards and they're giving up points to some lesser offenses so far this year. So they figure it out. Hats off to them. But that defense has to start playing a little bit better, as dominant as they're capable of.
I now know why. Draft night 2022. We saw the video of Mike Vrabel. And I thought about getting up and doing it, but I'll probably fall off the stage if I try. But we saw him doing this, walking around when they traded A.J. Brown, and he wanted to beat somebody up because he did not want to trade A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown is incredible. Think about the 2 receivers. 2 of the receivers traded that cycle. Tyreek Hill and what he's doing now, and A.J. Brown and what he's doing now, what he could be doing for the Titans and what he is doing for the Eagles. First time ever, 6 straight games with over 125 receiving yards. Incredible. Even with Jalen Hurts a little banged up, Jay Glazer reported in the pregame show on Fox that he's got a knee bruise. He's had it for 4 weeks, and he looked a little hobbled by it today. Doesn't matter if A.J. Brown's going to keep
Doesn't matter.
You know, when you have a big physical receiver like that for a quarterback, it just gives you so much confidence because you just throw the ball up there. When it's a one-on-one situation, you just give him a chance, and you know good things are going to happen. He's going to go up there and catch it and score a touchdown. You're going to get a pass interference, and the ball's not going to be intercepted. And he's just so physically strong. Guys are in great positions, and he does this, catching it with one hand. He's something else, and he has a pervasive impact on that whole offense.
Well, we've seen it actually been pervasive, and the impact has been felt the entire season. But there was an impact today. Remember, we had Patrick Mahomes coming into the game. He had a flu illness. They're playing the Broncos, so we're thinking this isn't going to impact anything. But he was held out of the end zone for just the 3rd time ever in his career. The Chiefs only scored 9 points. The Broncos snap a 16-game losing streak. I mean, we could go on and on and on, but it's certainly not the outcome that you would have expected coming into this game.
I still want my snow. I was told there was going to be snow in that game today. Where was the snow?
Pretty.
It was
Would've
sunny.
made it pretty,
Yeah, it was sunny.
Don't believe the hype, right? Don't believe the hype.
But look, when Patrick Mahomes went to the World Series game Friday night, I had people asking me because I've got some strong opinions about quarterbacks, you know, not working all the time. And Mahomes gets the benefit of the doubt because he's got 2 rings. He can do whatever he wants. But then when I heard he was sick, and he'd been getting sick toward the end of the week, and he was at his worst on Saturday, like, if you're sick, I know I don't want to do anything when I'm sick. I want to stay home and rest up. So you just think you're going to show up and beat this team. And for good reason. He's shown up and just beaten this team every single time he's ever played them. And they got a little bit of a little slice of humble pie in this one. And I don't know that it would have made a difference if he would have stayed home and rested up on Friday night. But he's not Superman. He's close, but we saw today he's not.
Yeah, and I want to give some credit to that Denver football team. I was at the game a few weeks ago in Kansas City where Denver really couldn't get anything going. They ran the ball early in the game. They got some turnovers, but they just never turned it into points, never really had a chance. And Kansas City still didn't play a great game against Denver that game, but they were able to pull away and get the victory. Today, Denver capitalized. They scored points in the red zone. They put the pressure on Kansas City early in the game. Defensive line, the rush got after Mahomes, didn't let him stay comfortable. And I thought that put so much pressure on Kansas City and Mahomes having to make the great plays over and over and over again. He couldn't today. So real kudos to Denver for stepping up and not worrying about that you've never beaten this guy as a starting quarterback and saying, hey, this is the second time we're playing him this year. Let's change that.
Yeah, we were watching the game together, and I just kept shaking my head saying, this is the same defense that gave up 70 points to Miami. I mean, 70 points is historic. We know that. Hasn't happened since the 60s. And for them to go out against Mahomes in Kansas City and shut them down like they did, 9 points, keep Mahomes out of the end zone, take the ball away 5 times, sack them 3 times in big moments, and just make them look different than they always look week in and week out. It's been impressive. And, give George Payton some credit on this thing, the GM of Denver. They got rid of Randy Gregory. They got rid of Frank Clark, some talented guys on their defense because they weren't playing defense the right way. And they're giving some other guys some opportunities. They're playing the game the right way. A huge win for Denver.
Second loss for the Chiefs on the season. Let's talk about a team that's been trending maybe in the wrong direction and one that's been trending in the right direction. The 49ers, remember, they started the season 5-0. We were talking about them being the class of the NFL. But they've run into a brick wall the last few weeks, and we've seen a couple of quarterbacks being able to dissect their defense. What would you say the change has been over the last 3 losses we've seen for the 49ers?
Yeah, I mean, we sat up here on this desk and was like, this is the most complete team in football, and we haven't seen that so far. And I think they have to get back to what they do as a football team, getting off to a better start, scoring and playing from ahead to allow that defense to rush and get after the passer. To me, that's been probably the biggest part. They haven't really affected the quarterback position the way they were earlier in the season. No quarterback felt comfortable against this team. So it takes, when your front is good, it takes the pressures off your secondary. And I think these last few games, this secondary has had to go out there and guard some guys that can play. You play against Jamar Chase, Boyd, and T. Higgins. That's a tough matchup. And then last week going against Jordan Addison and what he was able to do. But a lot of that stems from not being able to sack the quarterback or put him under pressure where he doesn't have time to let plays develop. And I think that's been the difference for that San Francisco defense.
Absolutely. In each of those 5 games to start the season, they played from ahead. They were ahead early in the game, and they made the other team be one-dimensional, which plays right into the Niners' hands. When you force them to have a run-pass conflict on every single play, all of a sudden they're a little bit different. When all those rushers have to defend the run, too, it's a different deal. It's not a complicated defense. It's a defense predicated on not giving up big plays and being relentless to the ball. So when you play from ahead, you can go do that. When you play from behind, you turn the ball over like they're doing. All of a sudden, it's a different mix in the game. And again, too much pressure on Purdy throughout the game to make the plays.
The other problem, too, is in the past, the 49ers defense has been good enough where it didn't really need to try to disguise before the snap what it was going to do. Just show you. We're still going to come get you. Now you see Kirk Cousins and how he was able to process because they don't try to masquerade. They don't try to disguise. They just show what they're going to do. It's not working. So you see Joe Burrow do similar things. That's one problem. And the other side of it, too, I'm not going to make an excuse for the 49ers here, and I know the schedule was a difficult thing to put together, but I thought it was inherently unfair to the 49ers to have to go home from Minnesota on Monday night. Bengals had 14 days to get ready for the game. And again, shouldn't be an excuse, but that seems a little off. That seems a little bit beyond what should happen. The 49ers should have had a little more time to get ready for this one, considering the Bengals are coming off of their bye week.
Yeah, it makes sense. But, again, I agree with you. You can't use that as an excuse, but I think you also have to realize this 49ers defense played against Kirk Cousins and what that offense has been able to do when Justin Jefferson was out there and even when he wasn't out there, and then you're playing against Cincinnati. I know they haven't looked good all year, but that's a talented offensive group. So San Fran, yes, you want to play really good football as a defense. They believe in that defense. But regroup, say, hey, we went against 2 really good offenses. Let's kind of get back to what we've been doing. Let's start fresh. Let's not just press the panic button and throw away the season. We still have a good football team here.
I think they got a really good football team, and they're going to be there at the end of this thing, and they'll get it right. They'll get back to playing the games the way they want to play. Christian McCaffrey being the focal point of their offense, I think, is critical for them. Less Brock Purdy, and I think when they do that and they play from ahead, they'll get back in that rhythm they had early on.
They'll be happy to get Debo back, too.
That's
That'll
true.
help.
Yeah, you can't hit the panic button. We're only in week 8, so we got plenty more football to play. All right, it's time for some fantasy football news. Let's go to Matthew Berry.
Hey, thanks, Maria. So some of the big headlines from the world of fantasy football in week number 8, and we start with, of course, the quarterback injury. So tough doesn't look great for Kirk Cousins, who coming into Week 8 was the was a top 8 fantasy quarterback as well. Obviously, Matthew Stafford, Kenny Pickett, Tyrod Taylor, Desmond Ridder all get banged up. They leave. We'll talk about more what the injuries mean to the skilled players around them on Fantasy Football Happy Hour coming up. But I think if you are looking for a quarterback, if Kirk Cousins was your guy, again, top 10 fantasy quarterback entering Week 8, then, maybe look to Sam Howell, who's available in 55% of leagues. Since Week 4, he's the 4th best quarterback in fantasy. Looking a little bit further down the road, how about Kyler Murray, who's out there in a ton of leagues? He's not going to start next week, but he will start soon, we think. Obviously, a lot of upside for Kyler Murray, who's averaged over 20 fantasy points per game in every year of his career. 4th, how about Will Levis? I'm not sure Will Levis is a solution just yet, but what's exciting here is he unlocked the passing attack in Tennessee. DeAndre Hopkins gets going. 3 touchdowns from him, 4 touchdowns total for Will Levis. I think you're excited if you have Hopkins, if you have Chigakonkwo, if you have Treylon Burks. Great to see Will Levis go deep. How about the Eagles and the Commanders? Just want to point out that A.J. Brown, who won in the 2nd round of most fantasy leagues, looks like he is going to be a fantasy football league winner. An NFL record 125 or more receiving yards in 6 straight games as well. 6 different players in this game. Washington, Philadelphia, kind of crazy, but 6 different players in this game had at least 20 fantasy points. Good to see Devontae Smith get going as well. And then finally, the Bengals are back. You just heard Maria and the guys talk about this Bengals offense. Listen, they were drafted high in fantasy. A slow start to the season. Great to see them out of the bye look fully healthy, right? Joe Burrow looked like Joe Burrow. Big game from Jamar Chase. Joe Mixon gets into the end zone as well. All of them had over 20 fantasy points. Even T. Higgins starting to look like him. So it's great to see the Bengals are back. Reminder, next week, Sunday night, right here on NBC and Peacock, we get to see those Bengals against the Bills. Fantasy points galore in that one. Time now, I have this in my hot little hand right here, for our DraftKings crowning moments for week number 8. These are actual bets from actual bettors right here. Somebody out there put $200 on KJ Osborne to have the most receiving yards in the Green Bay Vikings game to win $3,000. Then it went off at plus 1,400. They cashed that. Somebody out there bet $200 on the Jets-Giants to go to overtime, and that was at plus 1,100. They won $2,400. And then finally, somebody out there put $20 on the Patriots-Dolphins to have the correct score. They predicted correctly 31-17 Dolphins over New England. They won $1,300. That went off at plus $6,500. Don't forget, on DraftKings Sportsbook this season, new customers can bet $5 and pocket $200 in bonus bets instantly. All customers can get a no-sweat, same-game parlay every single day. Here's what you do. You download the app, you use the promo code SNF. When you sign up, it's DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours.
All right, guys, it's time for your Week 8 speed round, and you see the decorations, obviously. It's all about Halloween. It's all about horror films. And so we're going to talk about what team represents each villain, okay? And I'm going to give it to you. You can tell me why you're going with them. We're going to start with Freddy Krueger. I've never seen the movie, so I don't know what he's like.
I haven't either, but I know he haunts your dreams, okay. Right? And the Chiefs are the one team out there right now that would keep defensive coaches up at night because you just assume Patrick Mahomes is going to get you no matter what. So to me, that's the one team that would haunt my dreams.
I'm going to go with Baltimore. I think Lamar Jackson, this Ravens team, him throwing from the pocket, him still being able to scramble, I would not want a game plan for them. Those would be nightmares, and I don't want nightmares anymore.
Come on, are you guys kidding me? Miami. I mean, Tyreek Hill, that guy keeps you up at night. How do you stop that guy? This guy has more yards receiving in the first half of the season than anybody in years. And there's so many different ways. We talk about it all the time. Do you play man? Do you play zone? Do you blitz? Do you play, So for me, it's Miami, particularly Tyreek Hill.
Okay, what about Dracula? Also, I've never seen this movie.
I read the book, though. The book's excellent. It's really old. It's hard to read old books because they wrote and talked differently than we do now. But it's actually really good. Bram Stoker's Dracula. The Cowboys, simply because they'll never die. They'll always be America's team. You're trying to make the Jets America's team. Sorry, keep trying. The Cowboys are always, no matter how bad they are, no matter how good they are, even though they haven't been to the NFC Championship game since 1995, they're just always going to be around. They're always going to be there. And, sometimes it's good and sometimes it's not good, but they're never going away.
See, sometimes it's not good. Immortality. Mike Tomlin, the Pittsburgh Steelers, they don't lose. There's no losing seasons around here. They somehow find a way. We were talking about it earlier. this team, if they just score 10 points, they got a chance to win every week. That's not normal, but that's why they're Dracula.
I like that. I like both those. I'm going to go with the Chiefs. I'm going to go with Patrick Mahomes. I think he's an immortal. I think we're going to be talking about this guy for generations to come. Andy Reid's going to be one of those faces sculpted on Mount Rushmore of coaches. So I think they're the immortal team, best team of this generation.
Okay, what about Hannibal Lecter? I know he's a can. This is a crazy
too
one.
easy. This was too easy. It's the kneecap biters. It's the lions, right? They're the cannibals. It's literal.
Oh, that is a good one.
Yeah.
We should have made you go last. You stole it with that. Now I'm just throwing mine out there. I'm going to Eagles. The Eagles find a way to win. They always come away eating you up and finding a way, but
Yeah, ditto. I'm going Eagles. Same reason.
Okay, you win. You win that one. What about Michael Myers?
Well, since Michael Myers never dies, I'm going to pull the Steelers into this one because they're the ones. I don't care what it like. How much of today's game were we sitting there saying those expletive deleted are going to win this game against Jacksonville, even though they are horrible again? They're going to hang around. They're going to hang around, and they're not going to die.
all right, I'm not going to be popular in New England for this one, but I'm going to Jets. We thought the Jets were done with this one. Somehow they continue to survive, and it's all with this hope of Aaron Rodgers coming back. I'm sure Kaminsky is staring at me right now, smiling ear to ear, but the Jets just won't die this
America's
season.
team.
I'm going Ravens. I just feel like the Ravens every year, they kind of people forget about them. They struggle a little bit early. When you look up, they played 8 games, they're 6-2. You know, it's just how they've been for a long time. John Harbaugh does a great job there. It's one of the best organizations in football, and somehow, some way, week in and week out, year in and year out, they're going to be part of this thing. So, and I like what they're doing. Lamar Jackson continuing to grow as a quarterback. They're going to be hard to stop down the stretch.
What about Norman Bates?
Oh, this one's easy for me. I mean, if we're talking psycho, Coach Garrett says all the time I need therapy because of the Vikings. And, you know, the last week for me has been the worst emotional roller coaster. Just when I'm in, they push me back out, and I feel horrible for Kirk Cousins. It's a horrible injury. He was playing the best he had in his entire career. And just like that, it's over for him, and who knows where they're going from here. And they've been doing this to me for 15 years.
This is after he showed up with his Vikings.
He had the Chuck Foreman
I got to
jersey.
burn it now. I can't burn it. It's Chuck Foreman.
Don't
I got to
burn
keep it. No, I got to keep it.
Keep hope alive.
Yeah.
Keep hope alive.
Okay.
Back around.
You're okay.
One of these.
You went Miami, Tyreek Hill for Freddie Krueger. I'm going psycho Miami. They keep beating all the bad teams in the NFL right now, but when they play the good teams, it hasn't worked out that well. So I'm a little concerned. It's driving me a little crazy.
I think that goes back to your time in New England. You know, I really do. For me, it's Buffalo. I love Buffalo. I really do. When they play well, they're as good as any team in the league. But there are some times when they just don't play the way they need to play. So hopefully they can kind of get their act together as they go forward and play more balanced throughout their offense and throughout their team. But right now there's a little bit up and down for me. A little bit of a Dow Joneser, as the great Dick Vitale would say.
Okay, I do have a question for you, Florio, since you are riding the roller coaster into psycho situation. What do you think the Vikings should do moving forward?
Call Tom Brady. I say that half jokingly and half seriously. Yeah, you really can't do anything. What do? You're trying to change a tire on a moving car. What can you really do? You've got guys who know your offense. You got guys out there that don't know your offense. You were talking about that earlier, Devin. It's not easy to do, to bring a guy in and get him up to speed on the fly. Their bye's not until week 13. So, I don't know, something. They should do something.
Let's cut this up, send it to Brady. Florio wants you in Minnesota.
Half a season, get ring number 8, get a little more distance between yourself and Patrick Mahomes. Come on, man.
That's a big one.
He went all the way in.
Come on. Well, I got to promise him a ring to get him to do it.
Florio was making the argument about Brady's mom growing up in Minnesota. How there was some kind of a connection.
Tom, the land of 10,000 lakes, baby.
Ridiculous.
Have you already tweeted him? Have you already? Maybe.
He's blocked me.
He's blocked.
I'd block you too.
Florio, our true psycho. Well, we hope you guys all enjoy Halloween, the rest of your week 8. We will see you for week 9. We've got Bills, we've got Bengals, we've got our coverage starting at 7 Eastern on NBC and Peacock with Football Night in America.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.